Dune has one of the most interesting universes in the sci-fi. Taking place in a very distant future, it paints a different picture compared to any other sci-fi universes. And with the recent movie, this universe has seen some resurgence. But there is one thing. I'm pretty sure some of you, while watching the movies, had the questions of why did they do it? But not as a movie itself, but as a characters. Why certain decisions were made while others were not made? Why this character is acting this way, why this was the political decision, why this was the military decision. And at some points, I'm sure that you thought that you could do it in a different way. Well, with Dune Spice Wars, you can. And in this video, we're going to be reviewing Dune Spice Wars, the strategy game and the Dune universe, and deciding whether it is worth it to buy right now or not. So without further ado, let's just get it started. And just disclaimer, I'm reviewing early access version of the Dune Spice Wars. And as always, at every single one of my videos, I'm going to be giving you the answer right away, whether it is worth it to buy right now or not. And the answer is yes. Despite being in early access, you would never think that this game in early access if you would not know this fact precisely. This game is pretty much complete with little issues here and there, which are being fixed as we speak. Game is interesting real-time mix of Civilization series and Age of Empires, and it gives an insanely great and deep gameplay that every RTS lover would love. But what about the details? Let's get into the details and discuss what Dune Spice Wars even is. So Dune Spice Wars is a real-time strategy in a Dune universe. You are playing on Arrakis and you are playing as one of the 5 factions. At least that's what it is in early access at the moment of the recording. We can play with every single major house like Atreides or Harkonnen, or even play as smugglers or even Fremen. Each faction has their own distinct styles, and each one of them are focusing on different, like one of them is more focused on military and brute force, while other is using more diplomatic methods to solve their issues. And gameplay wise, at first you might think that this feels like exactly like Civilization, but it's kinda not. You have a large Arrakis map, which is different every time you play it. The map is divided into different regions that you are fighting to take control of. Each region has different resources, different resistance, and also additional artifacts like a crashed ship or different campsites that you need to, well, interact with in different ways. But overall gameplay, overall goal of the game is extremely simple. It's a 4x game. You're gaining territory, you're going through a tech tree and upgrading your resources, you're getting more resources, you're improving your armies, you're engaging in diplomacy, and your overall goal is just to become the winner. You actually can win in this game in a few different ways, and not just through military domination. And yes, military domination is one of the ways, but other ways is going through economic victory, like controlling the most amount of spice. And yes, the giant sandworms are in the game, and you will need to pay attention to the spice mining very carefully to not get demolished by these sandworms, and you also need to pay attention where your armies move to not get your armies destroyed. And economic victory is actually mainly gained through controlling the largest share of the market that is available in the game. You can also have a diplomatic victory during which you need to actually be the governor of the Arrakis for 30 days straight. And actually, yes, you need to be chosen governor of Arrakis, and this is done through the council mechanics. And in these council mechanics, you're actually voting for different resolutions, and these resolutions are giving you different buffs or debuffs to you or to everyone else. And more powerful you are militarily, economically, more diplomatic votes you have. You can also gain diplomatic votes through different means as well, like even through trading. You literally can sell your votes to other houses or buy votes from other houses. And there's also an assassination way of victory. And assassination way of victory allows you to send assassins and basically kill all the leaders of the other houses. Yes, it's not as easy as it sounds, but yeah, you have the way to do so. And yes, you have an agent in the game as well that you can send to perform a different diplomatic or covert actions, like weakening your enemies, or even as a diplomat to improve relations with other factions. And you see, I've been talking about different things here, and I've talked about a lot of different features, and yes, it all sounds complex, but weirdly enough, it is not. The core gameplay loop is extremely simple, and all of those things are not piled up on you right away. You are being gradually introduced to different things, and gradually all of those things become more and more important. Like, for example, the fact that Empire is actually asking you, or rather demanding from you, to send spies to them in different intervals. And as time progresses, they want more and more spies, and you need to work to, well, gather the spies. So practically adds a time mechanics, like timer mechanics as well. And again, despite being additional things to pay attention to, It's not obtrusive and it's not taking away your attention from anything else. If you will play well, you will gain spies to send them anyways. You just need to take into account while spending your resources that this thing will also come, and there is a time for that as well. Overall, core gameplay loop is extremely simple. You start the game with your main city, which is extremely well protected and very powerful one, which makes it difficult for others to conquer it as well as for you to conquer other cities. You build your scout units and you send them around to scout for territories around you. You build your troops and send these troops to conquer different territories, and you need to pay really close attention to resources. You have your money resources, you have your building resources, you have your fuel, you have your water, you have your manpower. The number of resources is pretty large, but they're not as difficult to control as you might think. Don't get me wrong, the game is not easy. It's an RTS game. RTS games are not supposed to be easy, and this game is not easy, but it's not unnecessarily complicated. To be fair, the gameplay reminded me a lot of Stellaris, and it feels like that these developers are actually getting a lot of their inspiration from games like Stellaris. And one thing that you might not like is the graphical style of the game. The game looks a bit cartoonish and is similar to its look to Civilization 6. That's why I said that it looks like Civilization games. You don't have giant armies in the game. You actually have few squads to send and also different military equipments. And yes, at launch you didn't have things like, for example, aerial units, but now you have because of the game's updates. But all is great if the price is right. So how much Dune Spice Wars would actually cost you? So games available on Steam for the base price of $29.99 for tier 1 countries and $14.49 for tier 2 countries, and can go as low as $23.99 for tier 1 countries and $11.59 for tier 2 countries. And game is also available on a Game Pass for free. Well, if you don't count the price of the Game Pass, of course. So is it worth it? As you can see on Steam, game has not gone on deepest sales just yet. The deepest sales were only 20%, but you need to actually take into account the game is pretty new and is in early access, so it didn't even have its own full release. It doesn't have very large player base as well, fluctuating somewhere between 3 to 800 players at all times. But is the game worth the price? Well, I think yes. This game is insanely long and can give you really long gameplay. You can play same campaign over and over again. And yes, at the moment of the recording, you have two different modes for this game. One is regular Battle for Arrakis, and there is also a dual mode that will pit you against only one player. And there will be another mode called Conquest mode, which is not available at the moment of the recording of this video. So the price that they're asking is absolutely valid. Maybe not full price, but on any sales, yes, game is absolutely worth it to buy. And this game is actually a definition how early access should be launched. You should launch the game that is great already at the launch of an early access, and then you expand and add more things as you approach the release. Not starting with bare bones thing that does not do anything, and then maybe eventually transform into the game. Yes, this game costs a bit too steep and also uses the fandom of Dune to actually become very playable and very engaging game, but it also deserves it. I played this game on release, and when I played it now, the game has expanded quite a lot. Little UI changes, gameplay balances, an overall game performance which is silky smooth makes me want to play and return to game over and over again. And I think it will do the same thing to you as well. So overall, yes, Dune Spice Wars is worth it. And yes, you should support studios like this one who release already finished product and just make it better afterwards, no matter whether you call it early access or not. Well, this will be it for today. Thanks for being here with me. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe for more videos like this one, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. See ya.